The refugee crisis continues to worsen in Europe. Thousands of desperate migrants fleeing war, hunger and economic hardship are trying to make their way to Germany and other parts of Europe. And although many have made it to safety, Europe is divided over what to do next. For the latest on the humanitarian crisis, we begin with CCTV's Jack Barton. He joins us from Brussels. And Jack, what's the latest on the thousands of refugees making their way to Germany and other parts of Europe?
Well, the numbers are continuing unabated. We're seeing still more people traveling from Turkey across the Mediterranean to Greece and then traveling on overland across the Balkan route, entering Hungary, and then heading mostly onto Germany. So about 18,000 people entering Germany over the weekend. We're still not seeing really a EU response, but we are seeing individual member states taking more action, chief among them Germany. We've heard the most recent step is raising the amount of money that Germany will put towards housing refugees, other measures going up to around $7 billion US. And that will go towards 150,000 places where people can stay through the colder winter months. It's also going to go towards increasing the federal police by 3,000 members, border control, and also a form of formal welfare payment rather than the cash handouts they've been given to the refugees. But at the same time, they're cracking down. They're making sure that people who don't qualify for refugee status have to go home. And they're also changing their tone on, earlier they were saying they want to scrap the Dublin Agreement for Syrians. That is the agreement that states that asylum seekers who enter the European Union have to seek their claim and stay in the first country they entered. Germany waived that for a few days or a week. Now they've backtracked on that. They want that back in place. So what we're hearing from some individual member states is a more compassionate tone when it comes to genuine refugees, but a tougher tone when it comes to those deemed to be economic migrants.
Jack, does Europe have any kind of long-term plan to deal with this crisis?
No, it does not. And EU officials are remaining fairly tight-lipped ahead of that big emergency summit coming up on September 14. But we are expecting some sort of announcement later in the week when Jean-Claude Juncker, the European Commission President, will give his annual State of the Union address. We're expecting a hike in the number of refugees that the European Union will accept, either on a voluntary level or on a mandatory level. They have tried mandatory distribution on an equitable basis of refugees across the bloc before. That failed because it required a unanimous vote. What we're hearing from officials on the side is they may try to lift that number significantly from 40,000 up to about 160,000, and it may also be mandatory. But what they might do is go for a majority where 55% of the vote is for it, and that would be enough to get it through. That would be 16 of the 28 EU countries, and therefore there would be a mandatory scheme in place.
And we've also seen that many of the migrants are coming on boats from Libya and other areas. How big is the overall migrant problem, and what can we expect in the months ahead?
Well, it's enormous. We've just heard from German Chancellor Angela Merkel saying it's going to change the face of Germany. She believes if it's managed well, that will be for the better. But the Balkan route is now the main route, but still more than 100,000 people have traveled through Libya as a transit country, heading across the Mediterranean, mostly to Italy this year. The EU's foreign policy chief at the moment trying to get the green light for military strikes against the boats used by human traffickers. They can't operate in Libya's territorial waters because they do not have a UN mandate to do so, but they're going to try and start destroying those boats in the water. But it's very complicated because they really need to work with the Libyan authorities, and so far there's still two rival governments there. The EU is working with the UN to try and build a coalition government, but the one government that really wants to work with Europe on this issue is not the officially recognized government. And the officially recognized government, well, most of the refugees are not going through their area, so there's no quick fixes to this problem.